horse drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning, continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Buttons.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
Hello and a very big warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Enquiry Sunday Sermon. Plenty to talk about this week. It's been a fun week in the racing world, and we've had
horrible. What rubbish. Fucking depressing. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do a normal intro, not like in normie world,
Sorry.
Pretend this is racing TV studios.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the three fuckers there wouldn't be allowed in.
Yeah, and I'll just get my Pet from Paddy Power if it's really bad TV.
Yeah. Oh dear. Right. Here we go. So first things first, let's go through the main stuff from this week. And obviously, people will want to hear us talk horses for a little bit, which is obviously to discuss maybe the team tactics at Ascot. John, we'll start at Ascot before we head to HQ. What did we make of the old-fashioned Aidan O'Brien Derby ruining tactics for the heroin bet?
It ruined the heroin bet, didn't it?
Yeah.
It ruined the heroin bet insofar as Jim Crowley was utterly fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair assessment of the ride that got.
You're going to lose CJ as a fan now.
Well, I'm sorry, but it can happen to the best of us, can't it?
Yeah. I mean, what would you say to people that said that this sort of thing shouldn't be allowed?
Well, no. I mean, you can't stop anybody going off any pace they want, can you?
No.
Where do you draw the line? You went 36 and the cut-off point's 35.
Yeah. Obviously you talked for years about how Ballydoyle were just ruining the Derby year on year. And to be fair, when you first said it, I weren't sure whether I agreed, but you're right, they were. The Derby's much better now that they're not trying to ruin it, isn't it? Like, it's at least you're getting sort of a more fair result. Whereas, like you say, 2 at the front, 2 in the middle, 2 at the back. It's
Joe Soap goes there with one runner, he's fucked.
Yeah. Do you reckon they've worked that out themselves as well? Because it's like when you get like Serpentine winning, things like that, it kind of...
Well, I know it can happen. I mean, that year Serpentine won, nobody wanted to be the stooge and chase it, did they?
No.
That was the thing. I mean, I think their tactics got Cracksman bait in his derby.
Yeah. Yeah, you think Cracksman would have won that derby, but for that?
Yeah, I mean, who rode Cracksman that day?
I'm not sure.
I mean, he didn't know whether he wanted to stick or twist, did he? You know, with the pacemakers airing off and fancied Ballydoyle horse, he settled with shitbox, I mean...
Did you see that with Jim then yesterday, a bit like that? So, like, they've gone off like clappers. And as Jim sat in the position where he's like that, he's basically making the running, isn't he, Jim, for the other one in terms of...
He's giving him a drag, isn't he? Yeah. I mean, Jim's dad has just been set in the best position, really, observing everything from the back.
Well, you'd have probably sat alongside Masters. It might not have made any difference, but like you said, the position to be would have been sat last, I think.
I think so. Big time.
I agree. Totally. Right, okay. That's the Ascot out of the way. Just two things, races to talk about at Newmarket then. Obviously, we'll go on to the July Cup next, but this is a look that everyone wants for us to give our view on. City of Troy. I've been devastated by some performances like Frankel as a 2-year-old, and that was... But this one was sort of... Honestly, I'm not exaggerating. It was getting up there towards Frankel. I mean, this horse, John, it could win the boat race and the Masters, couldn't it?
And we're talking the snooker Masters here, not just the darts.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember your Rachel Blackmore article. Absolutely hilarious. That Rachel Blackmore winning every sport event going. Yeah, I mean, this horse, if you want to put it into a context here, it had no cover, which you desperately needed throughout the meet, and Ryan just kicked it in the belly quite some way out. Apparently, according to Aidan after the race, the reason was, he says, there's not much of a pull-up at Newmarket. He says, so I wanted us to have had a race. And so he didn't smash through the boards at the end. It's kind of...
You have to start running him round courses, isn't he? So he can just do another lap out of it.
I loved Aidan's comments when he says I was on near the winning line. He says he went again after winning line.
Yeah.
Astounding. And a ratings point of view, I gave it 118, but I think that underestimates it somewhat, because if you look at the time, it was only 0.3 of a second slower than Biggles in Bunbury Cup. I mean, that's astonishing. I mean, I don't know, off the top of my head, I don't know the weight for age, but I'm sure it'd be about, at this time, probably £40 or something weight for age.
Jesus.
I mean, this is...
And Biggles was in a plane and all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So this is it. We've got an horse here that is probably going to scale incredible heights, I think, next year. I would make it the price to not be injured, not to do the clean sweep wherever they run it. I think it's a type of horse, because it's so straightforward, you could run that over a mile and a quarter, mile and a half, mile and 6. They can do whatever they want to do with it, and it'll just win.
I'll agree with that. His temperament looks absolutely bomb-proof, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he walks around the paddock like a fucking old sheep.
Yeah, I thought it looked brilliant at the start. I just looked at it and thought,
It's the way he relaxes in his races as well. You know, I mean, Ryan just bridges them rounds and away he goes. I mean, there's no chill with the horse at all, is there?
No, it's one of them that, you know, when this starts at 7 on in its next run, I think you can safely have the 7 to win 1. It won't matter, because, like you say, there's no vices. It's not going to pull on. It's not going to look awkward or hang across track. Or it's the perfect racehorse, and I think it will just be. It's one to savour, this one. Obviously, Magnier.
It's one of the ones.
Magnier will be stood there in the screen, knocking one out with balls, knocking off his knees with this one, because it's going to get Justify up there. They want Justify to make it as a top sire, and I think this really does put Justify.
They'll be showing to the town clock for Justify, won't they?
Yes. Is it the full brother? Is it Bernardelli? Yeah, but it's the full Bertinelli that run at Ascot. Third in the Ascot Handicap Desert Era off 104. That's rated 108 now. That'd be interesting to see how that progresses, because that's no mug either. But this one is ultra special. One to look forward to wherever it shows up next. I'll put 5,000 on the gates, even at the Curragh, if it turns up there. Yeah, so we enjoyed that one. I know John very much did. So and he also enjoyed this one. The Story Horse, Shaquille, John. What do you make of it?
Well, it was fantastic, I thought. Because, I mean, once again, he just half missed the kick. Pulled his way into contention again. They were going a fair old licking. I mean, he just picked them up like they were shite, hadn't he, again? I don't know why they're not going to York.
Where would you go next with it?
York. I'd win Nunthorpe.
Nunthorpe, yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't think you'd have to do anything on him. You just let him run his normal 6 furlong race at York.
Yeah.
And he'll piss past him at the 2 furlong ball anyway.
Steve Brown was upset with the ride. He says it was the horse, not the ride. He says, which I sort of agree in a way, because if I were going to ride the race myself, I'd have. But then, are you fighting the horse, too much? The horse don't want to know, does it?
Rosa's just let it go. Shane let it go last time, hasn't he?
What it wants. Yeah, what it wants.
Yeah. I mean, it was never getting break for me.
Sort of horse that doesn't need a jockey, innit?
Pretty much, yeah. The jockey just complicates the situation. You might as well just put 2 sacks of tatties on it.
Chris, you'd love that. You'd love that sight.
Well, I would, yeah. I think Obviously, I don't know what taties are. I presume you're referring to potatoes, but
Yeah.
yes, it's a very uncomplicated ride, as they say, I think.
Yeah, like if they could sort that missing the brake out, John, he'd run through about 150, wouldn't he?
Well, I say he'd only run against the same lot in an untaught, wouldn't he? Now, it took him what to catch up and get to the front yesterday? 2 furlongs?
Yeah.
So by the 3 furlong pole, he's going to be rolling at York and just about ready to go for home. And I mean, nothing will touch him.
Does he go? Well, he probably goes unbeaten, doesn't he? Rest of the season, you think?
Well, I can't say what's going to beat him.
No, not in Europe.
Out the sprint ranks. No.
I don't know what they've got going in Asia and Australia, but I mean, maybe they'll fancy that. Maybe, like, it's always the Aussies coming over here, like, to sort of pit the wits, at Ascot.
McCarr was on about going over to Raiders Cup to watch it, so that should get him stuffed.
Oh yeah, he can get out stuffed. So is that the plan then, Breeders' Cup? I've not.
Yeah. Well, according to McCarr, anyway.
Breeders' Cup turf sprint.
Yeah.
Ooh. Wonder if you get a price on their turf, because it's like, obviously over here we price it short because everyone knows like the British Oil and stuff.
Yeah.
But I wonder if their turf just might play a little value on that. Can do sometimes.
Well, they'll think they're Italians that train it or something, won't they?
Yeah. Come on. The mafia.
Mexicans.
Yeah, little Mexicans, yeah.
What was he called? That Hector Macho Camacho, yeah.
Yeah, remember
Right,
him?
yeah.
What a fighter
he
he was.
died in a drug deal as well. Went wrong a few years ago.
He got shot, didn't he?
He did. He sort of had a liking, well, far too much of a liking for sort of booger sugar, as they call it in America, and decided to involve himself in the retail side of the operation rather than consumer.
I think he'd had some booger sugar before he was fighting.
Oh yeah, no, totally. He's well known for it, and he decided to get involved in the wholesale sale of this, and paid the price. Unfortunately, you can't fight bullets, as they say. And he found that out.
I remember a lot of his fights used to be on World Sport. They used to edited highlights at lunchtime,
Yeah.
There was one fight I remember. Honestly, it was really ingrained on my psyche. He spent 6 rounds just knocking the living big Jesus out of this fella. Anyway, it finally gets stopped, and he's on this bloke's shoulders, and he's just shouting to the crowd, "Who is the man? Who is the man?"
yeah, what a character he was.
He used to come in dressed as a Roman centurion, with the little rat's tail haircut. Yeah, he's a real character, wasn't he?
Yeah. Still talking boxing. I keep saying it. I think I've said it on the show before, but you've got to watch Foreman and Jerry Cooney. It's one of the funniest. It's one of the funniest knockdowns I've ever seen. Jerry gets up and then he gets. That was like his mistake. It's fabulous knockout that is for anyone watching old boxing. Anyway, back to subject. Yeah, HQ then this week. Obviously, there was a lot of critique beforehand on the watering policy there. John, did he get it right?
He never gets it right. That's the problem. And it leads to people guessing. And it's not just the punters guessing, the jockeys are guessing. There's no racing line, there's no nothing. You don't know what tactics to employ or anything else. Get the place ripped up and get some temperature down. Take all of this shit out of the equation.
Yeah. I mean, they wanted to do it, didn't they? Newmarket.
They're going to use the old Sefton course. But again, as with every BHA decision, totally jaundiced against the punters. The old Sefton course would have given them a run in of about 2.5 furlongs.
Yeah.
A straight mile plus. All-weather course, where the July course used to be, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
But, no, we can't have that.
Yeah.
And gross profits tax, once again. The BHA can't keep denying this. they are after pulling people's pants down. It's not good enough. It's immoral.
I agree. I do you know what? I mean, the entire sport is modelled on losers. So how do you tell the masses?
Every decision they make, like, you can come back to them and say, hey, this isn't fair. You're not doing this fair. You're trying to ass rape people that follow this sport.
Yeah.
And they have no comeback because they know exactly what they're doing.
I mean, what is actually wrong with starting day one of Newmarket on really quick ground?
Or standard.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's just mental Ben stuff. I mean, as a society, why have we gone from going sticks of 10-point somethings at Ascot to goings of 7-point somethings and calling it the same ground as good to firm? We've literally knocked three points off the sticks and said,
well, that is itself bent, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I thought turf tracks. Well, it's not turf tracks, is it? But it is turf tracks because they will have their going.
They've tried to make years of data worthless to punters.
Yeah.
And again, you look at the possible motivation for them doing that. Why recalibrate the stick? It's of no interest to trainers what a stick reading is as regards safety. They just want to know you put 7 mil on last night.
Yeah.
The only people taking notice of historical stick readings are serious punters. So, once again, the BHA are at it.
Yeah.
Harrington can come on here and disprove this anytime she wants. I'll debate this with her all night.
Nobody's taking 50s on her coming on this show, are they?
No.
Those dreadful oaks at the bar stewards. Dreadful. To be fair, that's how, including, I will say, mainstream media views us as a podcast. Some find us rather amusing. Some really do hate us. Absolutely. They hate us. And it's like, and why do they hate us?
Sally Grassick hates me now as well. I've had one interaction with her.
And Kate Tracy.
And she doesn't like, yes, I dislike her because she's like a lot of people disingenuous, you know.
Yeah.
Like a person that puts up a picture of wearing a swimming costume saying, oh, if I wear this, I hope the weather gets sunny. Well, that's not the reason why you're putting it up there, is there? You know, and if you want to take it seriously, behave seriously. We don't care, so that's why we behave like we are. But, you know, there you go.
Well, if everything was run correctly and how as it should be, we wouldn't exist. There'd be no need for a Bar Stewards podcast. We could just sit and talk about OnlyFans and cocaine and anything else.
I'm up for debating that all day.
Yeah. Sure. So this is it. It's kind of got to a stage now where, like, the mainstream media don't ask the right questions of people in the sport. You can go from several topics. You can go from, say, for example, Joe Suarez-Smith with the conflict of interest, as we know he's got being invested in slots, and basically the BHA we're going through an affordability crisis. So why is that legitimate in terms of separating slots betting from sports betting, even though we know it'll never happen anyway? It's the fact that the BHA aren't fighting the very corner of the punters that bet on this sport. So, and obviously, if you've got a slot person in charge, their decision making is going to be obviously skewed, or you'd like to think it's skewed towards.
It's going to be in a certain slot, isn't it?
Yes, in the slot.
3 bells, Joe. Yeah, that's exactly.
And then when we come down to the media, I've thought about this today. That I think the media in the 80s, when I was growing up as a lad, do you know why the media were a bit straighter? Because newspapers sold and the publication made money, and they didn't have to necessarily get funded by billionaires to keep going, to keep and what we'd see now is media corporations that are funded by foreign outlets, and I
still think the racing media back in the 80s, though, I still think they were way too close to the participants.
Oh, yeah.
Claude Duval.
Claude, yeah. Fucking buffet master, wasn't he?
Ever so many. I mean, you know, when Piggott got done for the tax thing, Charles Benson nearly got that story snuffed out, you know.
Yeah.
There was only the people didn't pull it. All of Fleet Street had that story.
Yeah.
And Benson got everyone pulled, barring the people. I think it was Brian
Claremont
Madsen.
set, wasn't he? He was part of the Claremont set or on the periphery of it. I've read his book, and I would recommend anyone get it. It's out of print now, and I think you can get it. You can get it on Amazon. But his book that he wrote is phenomenal, and he's quite open about it. He's never done a stroke of work in his life, and he's quite proud of that. You know, it's an achievement. You know, earn a living doing nothing. It's just a professional. What's the word?
Ligger.
Yeah, ligger, beginning with an L. Ligger, yes. The sound here is awful. Ligger, that's right, yeah. A professional ligger. That's what he was, and a very good one, though, at that.
Yeah, I mean, you've got various pundits on television. They've all got fingers in pies, various pies. It could be that they're jockeys' agents, or they are paid by bookmakers to write blogs, etc., and columns. This is what I find a bit galling, that it stops genuine, the kind of stuff that we do on the show with a bit of fun mixed in. They can't say this. They can't say that. You know, they can't. Now, why can't they say it? Why? You know, this is the annoying thing. I don't understand why that there's not one person out there that's willing to call things out for what they are, like with a more mainstream platform. But like John, you've said before, they wouldn't exist on a mainstream platform, would they?
Yeah.
So it's a way, yeah.
They all got bills to pay, and they're corporate masters. You know, and we live in a world where image is, you know, they try and control everything. All the messages are carefully sanitized. So yeah, I mean, it's inevitable, but it's racing's very much the poorer for it, you know, in terms of the information, in terms of the fact that there's very little campaigning journalism. But it's also, I just think, not as colourful as it was. Although we laugh at Charles Benson and Claude Duval, I mean, but they're colourful characters, weren't they? You know, whatever you may think of them, they added a little bit of colour to the press room, and I don't think that now.
Back in yesteryear, probably Sporting Life days, were there any like journalists you remember like that you really respected?
Well, I always like Paul Hager. I got on really well with Paul.
Yeah,
you know,
clever guy.
I can honestly say he never did me a bad turn, and he did actually call a lot of stuff out, albeit maybe tongue in cheek a lot of the time, but. He wasn't afraid to criticise. I mean, his resignation letter from the Post was absolutely legendary, wasn't it?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
I must have been under a rock. I can't remember that. Remind listeners what it was.
Stick your job up your fucking arse, you bunch of cunts, as I recall.
It was pretty much that. Yeah. That was the cut and thrust of it, you know. I mean,
I paraphrase.
He said how the Millington had more or less turned it into a glorified tipping sheet.
Yes, he did. That was the general thrust. It was the naked commerciality of it that he, that turned him right off.
Yeah, and it was a genuine fella, Paul. He was a genuinely nice man.
I remember his columns, and I remember he's sometimes tipping pieces. I remember his columns well. But I never understood. Well, I didn't know what happened. I must have had a week off that week or something. But yeah, I never saw that article. What he wrote in after he sort of told him to stuff it. Then, no, interesting stuff. I mean, you've had the Racing Post then for years, obviously funded by the sheikhs. What's the problem with Millington's rule? Do you think then? What will we say? He's obviously sent the Post backwards, hasn't he?
Yeah, you struggle to put your finger on why. Probably that. I don't think the agenda with the whip has helped.
Yeah.
There's been a clear agenda there moving towards getting rid of the whip. Now, whether that's coming from Millington himself, I don't know. I wouldn't have a clue. But there has been a drive from the Post to get the whip frowned on, I think. Also, I think as well, I don't feel that the Post calls out bad decisions or questionable decisions by higher authority in the game. You know, it's sort of the BHM announced such and such, and this is what we'll have to go along with.
You see, that's another thing that I don't understand, Chris and John, right? On both of you on this. I don't understand why racing won't call out, say, the BHA or other higher companies, higher stakeholders in the game, because they're not being paid by. I understand why they don't call out the big corp, because a lot of the probably money and advertising and spot and come. I get that, but I don't get why they don't call out the leaders and the problems we're suffering in the sport. And it's obvious, we can see it. A lot of punters can see what the problems are, but the racing post not interested.
A lot of them are enhanced positions due to sitting on these interminable committees that the BHA keep putting together.
Yes. Exactly. Plus, also, as John's mentioned in the past, people of a certain age, mid-career or early career, are looking for their next career move. You know, it's unlikely that they're going to have a job at the racing post forever. So, you know, you don't want to burn too many bridges, because there might be a nice PR role coming up at, you know, in High Holborn.
Yeah, know, I mean, if you want to shut somebody up, sit them on a committee and tell them it's to do with race planning, and they'll think they're really changing the direction of the game.
You've got a seat at the table. What more do you want? You're part of the decision-making process. You know, it's going to be very difficult to call out people that they sit across the table from on a monthly basis, or pass in the corridors when they go to these meetings, because it is all part of one very large club, isn't it? And, you know, there is no real kind of, friction between parties, and it's like everybody buys into this. You know, we don't want to break ranks. It's all management by consensus. Let's get behind the racing leadership. Whereas in fact, what should happen is the opposite. Racing's leadership is bereft of ideas. It's perfect for journalists to come out and say these people are idiots, and here's why, but they don't.
Well, it absolutely mirrors the political scene at the moment. You know. I mean, you've got a government there that's been absolutely redundant for the best part of 12 months, just basically occupying seats until the next election. But then all you've got waiting to come in is a watered-down version of the same sorry mess.
Same party,
and it's crying out for somebody to tear it all down and rebuild it. And racing is a mirror image of that, because there is so much wrong with racing that needs rebuilding from the grassroots. Well,
there is. I mean, if anyone's not noticed, it is a crisis. We're going to face some severe problems down the line due to possible lack of funding, as punters can't stake what they want because obviously affordability checks, and that's took another turn for the worse this week. This is why I think it's all bent. Again, here comes Bob Lazar, the ICO.
Out there, honestly.
Yeah, we always get Bob Lazar in. The ICO have backed the Gambling Commission on. So basically, they're the data assessment bods. You know, basically they're the ones that make the decisions on what infringes data protection rights, things like that. They have backed the Gambling Commission on affordability checks. So believe me, folks, yes, it is. And they've come out this week. Again, it's under the radar. It's not being reported by the Racing Post. It's not being reported by anybody. This is by SBC News. And basically, the Gambling Commission are delighted, rubbing their hands. This is great for our addicts, they say, as this will help them not do their bollocks, which we know is also bollocks. But anyway, so I'm at the stage where I think this is all bent, but stand by for a podcast with the Gamblers Consumer Forum. I'm going to be joined by Abby McGregor, the brilliant Abby McGregor, and Andrew Woodman, and that podcast will be able to listen to on probably Tuesday evening, I would think, after a good edit. The producer's nodding on that one, so Tuesday evening we're looking at for that. And I can promise you that is a cause to get behind, because it is probably the last chance we've got of significant change to the white paper, because they're the only ones that are doing anything about it. So, yeah, look forward to that. And it's a project we must get behind for sure. Right, just coming over to Ireland now for a little bit, because there's a few things going off over there this week. And again, we talk about bentness and how it all is. Obviously, there's the Irish Horse Racing Board. There's lots of turmoil there, with payments being made to people, you know, fiddling, embezzling funds potentially. And so it was quite amusing last week when the new CEO, Darragh O'Loughlin, basically had to appear in front of the regulatory board to discuss matters of, sort of bentness, if you like. And basically, in a nutshell, to keep it short, this got chucked out. Well, not chucked out, but postponed due to legal advice. Now, it's amazing. I mean, clearly some shenanigans have been going on there. Dennis Egan, the former CEO, as we know, he was paid 58% more than the maximum outlined in the IHRB's early retirement scheme. Obviously, this is taxpayers' money. It's different to the UK. It's not punters' money. It's taxpayers' money that they are obviously dipping in the pot and, having a jolly good old way. So, yeah, I mean, this is bad stuff going on in Ireland at the moment, which shows that probably they're no more competent than a BHA board, John.
Well, they're not. And it's very, very worrying for Ireland, isn't it? I mean, did your man turn up anywhere that was supposed to be giving evidence the other way?
Well, that's it. I mean, it was basically Darrell O'Loughlin did appear, but basically that's what they got after a short exchange. Basically, the whole meeting got cancelled on because they had to take legal advice.
I'm not prepared to say anything on the grounds I might incriminate myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absolutely, it's ludicrous. I mean, these inquiries now are just, as we've seen with the old Johnson phone. He's forgot his password or whatever it is, or his PIN number. And I mean, it's just.
He'd only remember if it was up to me, because he'd be in a cell somewhere getting buggered senseless till he coughed up the numbers.
What by some well-hung Africans?
Absolutely.
Anyway, right. So yeah, problems in Ireland also appearing on their bill. And this is where I thought Ireland was different from the UK. Ireland obviously distanced themselves from affordability checks, citing data issues, but the ICO don't see a problem. But however, on the bill, on the gambling bill over there, they've now looked at banning advertising on horse race, unless it's outside watershed.
I mean, why is nobody looking at this on restraint of trade grounds? Honestly, God, there's a recession on, for Christ's sake, and then to ban advertising for legitimate within the law businesses is absolutely appalling.
Well, this is why I'm surprised at Ireland, because I always thought Ireland. We've had Declan Carr on the show. Well done, Declan, by the way. Your horse winning this week. Really pleased for you. Saw all the photos with you and your young lad. It was absolutely tremendous to see that. I love it when good people get rewarded for a bit of patience, and it paid off.
Did he tip it? Did he tip you?
I don't. He didn't tip it, but it was kind of. It was kind of.
Put you away, didn't he? Put you away, rubbing your nose in it.
Well, no. Look, I know. I wish him all the success, because he's a great guy, and that was, seeing them photos actually lifted my mood as well that day. So it was lovely to see. Anyway, coming back to it. So banning advertising, like John says, restraint of trade, Chris. I mean, this is really bad, because we are. I know they banned. Some people say, well, they banned cigarette advertising, but I think this is a bit different, because we're not talking about like mainstream telly advertising. We're talking about like racing channels. So you can't. So at the races, racing TV will not be able to broadcast Irish racing because of their sponsors.
Yeah, it's insane, and I think the point you make is right. We're in the teeth of a very, very serious recession. And it's almost as if the people that make these decisions, guess what, have absolutely no commercial experience or understanding of how the world works. It's almost as if all of these things are dreamt up and administered by professional bureaucrats. And this is what you get when you have very inexperienced people with an agenda that are quite happy to vote this through, or say, yeah, that's all right, that sounds good. To me, it's just mad. Now, whether it's because I'm old and miserable, I just don't understand it. I really don't get it.
Well, I mean, I'm old, miserable, and cynical, and very cynical, because you've got to be in this game. It literally is full of lizards. I'm not saying that I'm perfect or squeaky bum clean or whatever. In fact, you wrote an article on betting morals, which was quite an interesting one, and that's free to read if you go over to Patreon and read Chris's article, because
and it highlighted the disgusting carry on we had last week over betting on nonce or not nonce.
Nonce form. We had nonce form last week, and Chris has gladly spent the money on flowers for his missus. 75 notes.
I spent it on male prostitutes and cocaine, didn't I? It's what Hugh would have wanted.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So yeah, that was
not the cocaine part, because I don't want to get into trouble with his lawyers. No, just the record.
Just coming to another potential scandal. I don't think I've got enough information on this yet, but I've had one or two people contact me this week regarding a syndication outfit called All About Sunday, and they sell micro shares in racehorses and have done for some time. Now, this is only someone's testimony that obviously was in the clubs or whatever, but basically he claims that basically they've all been screwed because they signed up for the £60. There was all these horses on the website, and they've now been shoehorned into one horse that's fairly rubbish. And just to compound that, they did a crowdfunder for 600,000 on the promise that they were going to buy quite a few racehorses, obviously micro syndicate to members. Sadly, all these pages regarding the crowdfunding have been removed. There's nothing there anymore. There's nothing to see here, and there's no horses purchased. Again, I don't want to say too much because I've had a couple of people come on to me about this, so it's like I don't want to start saying something about a company and it's completely wrong, but it does look a bit iffy. So what I'm going to ask listeners to do, if you've been involved with All About Sunday racehorse ownership syndicates, get in touch by DM on Twitter. Tell me your experience. Obviously, I'm speaking as an outsider. It does look a bit iffy, if I'm honest, from what I've looked at. But obviously, there's no guarantees that the confidants telling me stuff are correct, as we've seen with Desert Crown and Kevin Stott. So,
Yes.
I mean, this is. I mean, obviously, as we know, with syndication of horses, it's always open to a bit of, one for me, one for you. But I don't want to start commenting too much about this until I've got more concrete sort of evidence that something has taken place of ill. But it's an interesting thing because they have only got the one horse at the moment with Fergal O'Brien. And I'm sure they set out with a lot more than that. So it'd be interesting if any of you out there have had an experience with All About Sunday. Coming on to some questions from you guys. Philip Doherty's been on, and he said far too much racing these days, John. Saturdays are becoming the worst day of the week to watch racing.
It is, to be perfectly frank. I mean, I can only keep up with my notes and that, but this week it was no chance to give up on the notes after the first races across the board.
Yeah.
And then went back last night and finished them off. You've no chance, really.
No, and this somebody else has also commented on this regarding like keeping up with everything, studying form. I can speak personally that it's really hard to cover everything. There's sometimes when people say, "Oh, did you see that run?" or "Did you see that race?" and I've not watched it because they've either clashed or it's on another channel. And I mean, talking about annoyances, my annoyance this week, and I've seen it on 3 occasions in 1 week. Horses being walked to the start, John. That should be banned.
Well, it should. I mean, it's not like we have a system where they get ponied or anything like that, is there? There's no excuse for it. It's like horses that take 6 or 7 attempts to get in the stalls.
Yeah.
I think it should be 2 strikes and you're out.
Yeah, well, basically you're just offering ammunition to prohibitionist groups.
Yeah, put it on the trainers to train them properly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if that horse won't leave the parade ring to go on the track or won't be mounted, then it should be scratched as a non-runner for that reason. It should be wouldn't go to the start. That's it.
Certainly.
I've had enough of this walking to the start. It's absolutely ridiculous and shouldn't be allowed. On a busy Saturday as well, sometimes it doesn't work.
Well, basically, you're giving that horse an advantage anyway, aren't you? Because everybody else is milling around at the start.
Yeah, boiling over, sweating up because they're just waiting, and because they know what they're there for. That's why it's like an athlete.
Exactly.
It's like keeping Usain Bolt waiting to run his 100 metres 10 minutes behind track. They're all like, ready to thump somebody. And like I say, it's boiling over.
And he's having to wait there while Jeff Capes ambles up the track.
Smoking a bag.
Yeah.
Jeff Capes, what a shot putter, John.
Oh, fantastic. Well, there'll never be another. With any luck.
Jeff Capes, Fatima Whitbread. What days they were? Jeff Capes, Fatima Whitbread, Tessa Sanderson.
Yeah.
How could they keep up with East Germans back then with narcotics? Astonishing.
They didn't even attempt to, did they? What was that? There was a 400 metre run. I went to Verona Elder. And you used to see her stamping a fag out just before she was going to run.
Yeah. Smoking a pipe. What? Yeah, that's the balls. Remember Alan Wells? Remember him? He could never get close. He didn't have his old woman shouting by the sidelines.
Come on, Alan.
Yeah, I know. I think you'd run faster, fucking get away from her, wouldn't you? You'd take a second off. Mount to that. Fucking hell.
He has to put her down. At the start of the pistol.
Oh no. Fuck me, he'd have been done 8 seconds, no gear either. Honestly.
He won an Olympics though, didn't he? When there was no gear.
Did he?
Yes, I'm sure he won.
Alan Wells, he won shit, did he? Maybe I'm going to Google it now.
He won Commonwealth, didn't he, or something?
He won something because there was no gear. Did everybody boycott it or something?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Oh, right. 1980, Russia.
Yeah, Alan Wells.
Yeah.
Or 84.
Russia didn't have any sprinters then, did they?
He did. He won. You're right. He won the 1980 Moscow Olympic 100 metres. You're absolutely right. And then silver at Rome and the... Hang on, let's have a look. Yeah, that's right. He did.
He might have been on Russian gear.
There was no gear, else Russians would have been on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There was no gear. That was playing games. Hence the 15 seconds slower at 100.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. The winning time was like half hour.
It was on a par with 800 metres at all the other Olympics.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Good old Alan Wells. Well, there you go. I've learned something. I didn't think he'd won out, but there you go.
That is.
You're mixing him up with Zola Bud.
Yeah, it's barefoot. Mind you, it's like someone criticised me thinking Michael Aspel was dead. I mean, I didn't think that was unreasonable given these 90s, but I thought Alan Wells was dead. There you go. He's not apparently.
He's a fair shout.
What was the barefoot thing about with Zola Bud then? What was it?
That's how she felt more comfortable running, by all accounts. That was she from when she trained when she was a youngster barefoot, and that was her thing.
And it did enable her to get spiked in the Los Angeles Olympics.
That's right, she did. Well done. You're a bit of a Tony Ansell there with the
she fucked up Mary Decker, didn't she?
Mary Decker.
Yeah.
That was her.
Yeah, there we go. Golf club's been on.
Gold. Fucking hell. That cheer us up, wouldn't it?
The only man that can stop time. He's in good form, Golf Club. He says, why are we seeing so many slowly run races when very few, if any are suited to it? Brain dead jockey trainer instructions. I'll start on this. I thought that a lot of staying races, 1.5 miles plus, are... Well, I've checked the stats on this. It's about 35% are slowly run, which are slower than par, considerably slower than par. That's a fact. So about 3.5 races out of 10 are farces over staying distances. Where, as an owner,
declining field numbers.
Yes, good point, John. Declining field numbers could be a reason. Secondly, I think the current crop of jockeys are shit. In fact, this is the thing I want to go on to. How shit is the current crop of jockeys? Because I cannot remember a shitter era for jockeys than now.
Yeah, I certainly can't.
Agree with that. Although someone said that Ross Orion was a generational talent on Twitter yesterday.
Jesus Christ.
Genuinely, somebody said that. If you look at Icy's thread, I think he commented on it. That someone said that he's a generational talent, Ross Orion.
Yeah. I mean, other than, honestly...
Can he sing or something?
Yeah.
Karaoke.
Just before the meat raffle, in the club.
meat raffle, yeah, remember
Yeah,
them?
yeah.
Great days. Yeah. Meat and fish. It used to be fishmonger used to come and all at raffle. You know.
Yeah.
I'm totally unfamiliar, but a pal of mine, a good pal of mine, was used to sort of was from South Shields, and he said, like, have you ever been to a working men's club in the north? I said, never. He said, it's a different, and it was exactly that. And he had the bingo. You had a fella come on from the butchers, but when the bingo was on, if anyone said a word, you get your fucking lights punched out.
Too right.
Dad said to me, he said, listen, you're saying fuck all because the bingo's on, and it was dead silent. Then they had a turn on, and no one bothered with this poor bastard. He was quite good singing. No one was interested because they're all ready for the meat raffle. Followed this poor guy that was singing. Unbelievable, brilliant, Lord, absolutely brilliant.
You've nailed that spot on. That's what it used to be like. Yeah, you did. Saturday night,
everybody had the same seats.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I walked in, the fella said, "Don't sit there. That's Albert's seat." He's coming in tonight. Well, no, he's like dead, but you can't sit there. You got to sit, and that was it. It was fucking regimented. And, you're terrified to open your mouth or look up because it was a whole kind of ritual of things that everybody knew, and it was phenomenal. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I went several times. I thought, this is brilliant, but I don't know how, whether they still exist in the same number, but it's phenomenal.
But that was back then, was it? Like, that's when food was scarce, genuinely scarce. I mean, youngsters today wouldn't recognise it like from the 80s, because I can remember my nan getting up Saturday morning, like, to get the Sunday roasting, and she had to get there half an hour before the butcher's opened to get in the queue to make sure she'd get the meat because
wow.
I'd like, it's like so weird. Like now it's like, you just nip to wherever. But back then it was like, and once it had gone, and no joint for Sunday. So my nan every time, and she wouldn't be first in queue either. She'd be about 10th.
But people expect for me, not going all animal rising or whatever, but it's true what they say. We have no regard for where food comes from, or where, and the whole meat raffle thing, it was an absolute unspoken respect for this high value, highly priced commodity. It was if people didn't eat it all the time, and there was a genuine respect for it. But now it's like, oh fuck it, don't worry, we'll just go and buy some more, and that's the problem with I think a lot of society now.
I think that's very true. It's why we're all fat, because at the end of the day, food is easy like back then it wasn't easily obtainable. Shelves were empty. You get the co-op some Saturday afternoons, the shelves were just decimated, and it's like you said, the butchers had sold out all the meat, the bakers had sold all the bread. And it's like, and that's what it was. And if you didn't get up first thing and get it all in, you were fucked. And that's it. I can remember nowadays we have, what do we have? We have blue ribbons, we have breakaways, we have walnut whips, we have all sorts of shit that we can eat, right? Back then, you'd be lucky if there were a biscuit in cupboard in the 80s. Yeah. It's like there might be a packet of digestives or something, or a packet of nice biscuits.
A lot of bakers used to sell broken biscuits, didn't they?
That's right, the broken biscuits,
Like a quarter of the price.
Yeah.
Thing, wasn't it? And Newsage used to sell single fags to school children as well. That was good.
Single fags to school kids.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like 50p or something. Like, go and have a fag on the way to school to break them open. Yeah, but you're right. It is a crazy situation. But if you had a wagon wheel, you thought Christmas had come early. If you got a wagon wheel, because you're right, it was digestives and fucking home wheat, and that was it, wasn't it?
But going back to golf club about slow run races, we always digress weirdly, don't we? It's quite funny. So going back to about slow run races, the fact is, I would if I was a big owner that was buying spending $100,000 a time at the sales for staying prospects, right? I'd be furious all summer at the jockeys for not going gallops, because at the end of the day, a lot of owners or look to sell at the end of the season to Australia or wherever. Now imagine if you've got one that you can't make running with it because it's a keen, so you have to drop it in, and all season it's getting 110%, 109%, 112%, 113% finishing speeds. It's just not had a gallop to run at. You're getting 60 instead of 360 at the sales. I'd be furious as an owner.
Your big problem there is the prevailing tactic now in these races is get to the front and park the bus. When you go back to like when Carson was riding, Carson would get to the front and he might park the bus for so long, but then from every 4.5 furlongs out, he'd start winding it up.
Well, that's
You know?
it. Yeah, that's it. It's like Coffin was a better judge of pace than a lot are now. Like you said, John, they'll ride for two, especially at Kemp. You watch Kempton staying races, right? So they'd ride from the traps, and you think, oh, they're off a good gallop here, and like you just said, John, they'll be like 37, 38, and then they're down to 31 mile an hour point anchor on in front.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's not how you ride staying horses. Staying horses need like even gallops. Even like Willoughby used to harp on about that when he were on racing TV. That was the thing. You don't ride staying horses like that. You ride them at an even gallop because they need an even pace, because that's what they're bred to do. Keep going. And it's annoying seeing so many jockeys, like you've just said. But obviously they're riding probably to have the best chance of winning, but at the same time, I don't think it's helping owners out.
No. I mean, something Frank Conlon relayed to me when Henry Cecil was travelling head lad, and he said that Steve rather said if he'd led in a race and got beaten neck, something like that, and his horse had running left in it, he felt he'd fucked up.
Yeah.
He didn't want his horse rallying and getting beat. He went, if he was going to get headed, his horse had to be empty.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd mismanage that.
Yeah, it literally is that I always think the best ride is where your horse isn't too tired and isn't like got full of energy, and you'd know that as a jockey. So it's so annoying to see 2 mile races on the flat run at like you said, John. They go 2 furlongs rapid, and then they just stick the anchors on and then sprint the last 3 furlongs. Who does that suit really? Like, they're becoming boring.
Yeah, it didn't show anybody. I mean, my local track, Redcar, there were 2 mile in nearly every card, or a mile 6, and the race patterns are absolutely the same every time. They go like stinking at the bottom bend, they take up a position, then they crawl down the back. You can't make ground up going around that bend at the top, and then everybody spends a furlong and a half, 2 furlongs, filling the lungs up down the straight before the sprint finish.
Yeah, exactly that, John.
That's just what happens.
Yeah. Well, golf club, I've got a stat for you, little stat for you here, because I thought it was a good question, really. If you want to back like truly run staying races, Goodwood has the lowest it has the highest of truly run staying races at 73.1%. So Goodwood is the place where they genuinely go usually a decent gallop for staying trips. If you want to avoid staying races for pace, it's Lingfield. Over 40. What was that? John, is that in the cellar?
God.
Jesus Christ, that was tremendous. Anyway, greater than 40% of staying races at Lingfield are run slowly. I mean, so only 60% of races are run more or less true at Lingfield over staying trips. So that's a track to avoid if you're trying to, for a stayer, unless you see the right pace setup. But Goodwood is the track. They probably go too hard down the hill, John, and things like that, and and stuff.
Might be significant that they turn left first, and then they're on the right hand turn.
Yeah. I mean, some horses might get fizzy and stuff like that. So Goodwood's, if you ever put punting sort of held up horses.
Plus, Johnson's probably got 3 in.
He loves that shit all. That probably explains the stat, John. It's all Johnston's fault.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. I think that's a good time to end it. We've had a bit of fun there, and we've discussed some important topics. I hope you've enjoyed the show. So, like I said, plenty to look out for this week. On Patreon, we've got a betting podcast, me and Quentin, that's going to be very interesting, worth the subscription fee alone. We've also got the Gamblers Consumer Forum with Abby and Andrew coming on to talk about the future and how they're going to tackle the problem that we face as an industry. Other than that, we're back as normal next Friday.
Got the super sprint, haven't we?
Yeah, super sprint time.
Wow.
Woo! Woo! It's like Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Woo!
Oh, yeah. We're going down another history now. Aren't we?
Yeah. Another subject. We've covered everything from world of sport to meat raffles to anything. We've got it all in. This is what you listen to the Masters for. Have a great end to your weekend. Pour a glass this evening. That's all from us. Bye for now.